We are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Scott Nunes, and you're listening to this live podcast, Meeting of the Minds, featuring Tara Martin, Tisha Richmond, Vernon Wright, and Jake Miller. That's right. And I'm your host, Scott Nunes. You could follow me on Twitter, YouTube, now Twitch, and Facebook at Mr. Nunes Teach. Welcome, everyone. How are ya?
Good morning. Hello.
Good morning,
everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we'll kick off this discussion, and I'll just ask you, who are you? What do you do? And what's your role in education? And where can we find you? We'll start with you, Vernon.
Yeah, what an honor and privilege it is to be with you all here today. We're just talking about community, and so honored to have you all be a part of this community. Vernon Wright, that's the name, unless someone changed it on the birth certificate and didn't tell me. Entrepreneur, speaker, consultant, NLP, life coach, and also someone that has been in different roles in leadership at this little thing called education. And really, I am someone that has had an interesting experience. My bachelor's degree is in economics and finance, master's degree in educational leadership, and very privileged to be with you all here today and to share a little bit from both of those experiences. You can, of course, catch me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at The Right Leader, and that's right with a W, and of course, founder of ZeroApologyZone.com. When you go in there and you buy something, buy 30 of them. No, just kidding. But so honored to be with you all here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vernon. And let's kick it on over to you, Tisha.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here today. I'm so excited. I am Tisha Richmond. I am currently a tech integration specialist and learning management coordinator in Medford, Oregon. I've also been a family and consumer science culinary teacher for 25 plus years, and also the author of Make Learning Magical. So I love just connecting with educators. You can find me on TishaRichmond.com is my website, at TishRich on Twitter, at Make Learning Magical on Instagram. And I also have the Make Learning Magical podcast, which I would love for you to tune into sometime. And Scott is going to have an episode releasing very, very soon. I'm super excited about launching it. It was a very fun chat.
I am pumped about that. And a quick shout out here in the comments. We have a couple edu podcasters in here. We got Eric Geis and Dan Kreinus. Make sure you're following their podcasts as well. These guys are phenomenal. Thanks, guys, for joining us this morning. And Jake, let's kick it on over to you.
Yeah, I'm Jake Miller, also honored to be here. As it says underneath my face, right down. Is it over here? It's over here. Oh, you took it away now, Scott. You messed me up.
Sorry.
I am at, there it is. It's back. I am at Jake Miller Tech on all of social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and even on TikTok now. I can't believe I'm trying TikTok.
Wow.
You can also find my work at jakemiller.net or in the Educational Duct Tape podcast. So what I do professionally in my day job is I am an 8th grade science teacher, which has really helped me get through 2020, having the kids to relate to during this time at school. They've kind of kept me positive and kept me moving forward. But the thing that I have a passion for doing outside of that day job time is my work with educational technology, which I love geeking out about educational technology. My true passion is supporting educators in their use of educational technology. It's kind of like I'm an ed tech coach on the side, just because I have such a passion for it. And that's what I do on social media and on my site and on the Educational Duct Tape podcast, is just learn more about educational technology, curate resources about educational technology, and then support educators who are feeling so overwhelmed by educational technology right now, and try to help them move forward in their work with students and supporting students with ed tech.
Yeah, and hello, we have a couple folks chiming in. We got Les and Ben and Amy Store in the house. Woo woo. And Tara, over to you. Where can we find you, and what's your role?
So thanks for having me again. I know everyone has said that, but it's always an honor to get to come on with friends and chat all things cool, education and life and all those things. I am Tara Martin. I'm a mom. It's one of my favorite roles, actually. of one boy, and I am an educator, author, director of PR and communications for Dave Burgess Consulting. I get to do a lot of fun things actually in that role. And you can find me at Tara Martin EDU on Twitter, on Instagram, taramartin.real, and on Facebook, Tara M. Martin. So please do follow me. I also love to do all things fitnessy and health and wellness. So I just started a podcast this year too. So you might want to check that out. It's called The Real Journey Show. And I would love for you to check it out. Let me know what you think. It's not necessarily educators only on that show. There are all kinds of different backgrounds and professions that share their real journey of how they got to where they are. And so I really just love the variety that comes out of that. It's very authentic. It's kind of a coffee conversation. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check it out. Let me know what you think. And yeah, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm excited to be here.
No, I am so pumped to have you all. And for those listening, if you haven't already, I've had each of these amazing educators on the podcast. So I've had Tara and Tisha and Vernon on the TNT EdTech podcast, and then Jake on Education Today, as well as Tisha. So check those out. All amazing podcasts. And I've been on Tisha's and Jake's podcast as well. Check those out. There's a lot of good content from these educators, and that's why I'm bringing them on today. And the reason behind today was to really just elevate and take to the next level what is possible. We want to advance what's possible here today. I know a lot of us are struggling during 2020, and these are educators that I not only follow, but admire for their tenacity and their ability to not only survive 2020, but thrive in this new environment. It's been very challenging for myself. I know I've struggled. I know many of you have reached out and said, hey, I'm struggling. Can you help with this item or that item? What do you suggest for this? And so I'm bringing you these pros, and they have some pro tips for you. I'm going to peek at my first question here. Reflecting on 2020, everyone, what is one thing that went well and one thing that you would change if you could? Tara, do you want to go first?
Let me unmute. What is 2020? You're on mute. So one thing that went well for me, I think this year was kind of a personal thing, honestly. I think just continuing on my fitness journey, that was something that helped me to thrive in 2020 truly, because one, some of you may not know this, but I have definitely dealt with a lot of traumatic past and dealing with that with seeing a therapist, and also in the past having to take medication at times when things got really tough. And so we all know 2020 got really tough really fast. And so I was super grateful to have CrossFit, which is my mode of fitness, and whatever your mode is. I'm not telling you have to be a CrossFitter, but this is something that was very beneficial for me, is keeping that consistency. And honestly, my fitness journey was my medication. I never had to take medication. And my therapist and I have very much seen the growth in my mindset when it comes to dealing with the traumatic past, being able to focus all my energies, or more of my energies, into these fitness goals and just chasing after the next PR. That's been very beneficial for me. And it transferred over into my professional world, over into my personal life as well, because learning that I could do hard things, and hard things were not really an obstacle. They were just, they weren't really something that was stopping me. It was something that was giving me something to work toward and work through. And I appreciated that in fitness, and I just transferred that over into real life when it came to all the 2020 challenges that came our way. So what I would do differently in 2020, there's probably a billion things I could do differently, honestly. But one of the things I think I would do differently and that I'm really looking forward to for 2021 is looking at ways to reach a wider audience. I feel like I have a lot to offer in multiple different avenues. Like I said, I've been a coach, a teacher, a coach, an administrator in education world, moving into this health and fitness, wellness, personal wellness and fitness world as well. And then I also get to do a lot of PR and marketing. So I just would like to be able to reach a lot bigger audiences. And so something I'm looking forward to for 2021 is figuring out how I'm going to navigate all those paths and be able to help others in multiple different avenues of life. So,
wow, that's amazing, Tara, and you're crushing it with the fitness. And I loved how you talked about how fitness looks different for everyone when you had Dave Burgess on the podcast. And I have a follow-up question. Are you gonna follow suit with our friend Jen Burtis's example and being an edu ninja of sorts? Have you considered that? You're getting pretty strong.
Well, I don't know if I'm that strong, Scott, but I really appreciate your vote of confidence. I do think that world of helping, there's been so many people inspired to start their fitness journey, and they told me those things from watching my stories, which I always thought were kind of corny, but I just put it out there for accountability. And that's just inspired me to maybe reach a bigger audience and help them to find what avenue of fitness works for them. CrossFit isn't maybe for everyone, but there is something that maybe works for you and helps you to be a better you in everything that you do. And like I said, so many things that I've learned through the fitness journey just crosses right over into the real life journey, into that professional journey. And so I don't know that I'll follow Jen Burtis's step by step, although she's amazing, and I'll let her be amazing by herself. But I do think there's some cool things to look forward to and maybe seeing on my website and in my YouTube channel and my podcast and some of the different broadcasting systems I'll be using for 2021, where you'll be able to see like a bigger variety of Be Real in all different areas.
Nice. I love it. And shout out to your book, Be Real. You're definitely being real. So I appreciate you so much, friend, for that. So happy to have met you and Tisha and Jen in 2018 at Fall Q. That was an amazing conference. So shout out to Q. And actually, Jake and Vernon were recent speakers at Q, Fall Q. Quick shout out in the chat here to Andrea joining us all the way from Philly. Thank you so much. And Melissa and our good friend Rochelle Dene Pope. So, and she has a new book out. So congrats, Rochelle. We got to get that into the hands of everyone. Those are great teacher and student stories you have. Vernon, let's go to you. What do you have for us?
How do you follow up Tara Martin, folks?
I know it's kind of hard, huh?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's 2021 started already following up Tara Martin, right? But, for those that are taking notes, and that anyone that is watching this, you do not come into any kind of learning environment with Scott without being prepared to take notes. I'll go ahead and I'll share with you a couple of different words that have meant quite a bit to me in 2020. The first one is context. The second one that goes along with it, that is paired with it, is clarity. And for me in 2020, and this was pre-pandemic, of course, I'm down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and things really started to change for us, I want to say about the first or second week of March. And, a lot of change, a lot of different things. And we as human beings, we love variety, but there is also a part of us that just craves stability, right? And so in the midst of all of this change, not only am I changing as a part of the different circles that I'm so blessed and grateful to be a part of, I'm changing as an individual as well, right? And I'm looking for my stability. And so I had a mentor, and I just want to go ahead and say this right now. For 2021, if you're looking to go ahead and take a next level move in your life and really live your best life, get connected with mentors if you are not already. And had a mentor of mine. He's in business, has nothing to do with education, and a mentor of mine locally. And he challenged me, Vernon, he said, you really need to tighten up your morning routine. And so we started talking about some different things and sharing some things that, I had done previously in the years past about my morning routine. And he challenged me to do some things. And so, of course, I won't get into all of those now, but in the things that he challenged me to do, context and clarity was what I really focused on. So context, let me go ahead and give the viewers and listeners, so honored to be with you all, a little bit of background on that. Context, understanding not only what is going on with me, but what is going on in the situation in real time, and understanding too, what would I like to see, or what would the group, if I'm collectively with someone, what would the group like to see as the desired outcomes? Context, right? And then clarity. What are my next steps? What are the highest leverage items that I can do as my action items, as my next steps that I can move forward with? And so for me, the thing that I really wish I had done in 2020, if I could really hit the rewind button, would be doing that much sooner, literally on January the 1st. So for those that are listening to this, that are watching this, again, so honored and privileged to be with you all. You're able to start January 1st of 2021, really even New Year's Eve, thinking about context and clarity. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, wow. Wow. That was amazing, Vernon. I took notes. I need to work on my context and clarity. And I'm thinking about my new role as an ed tech coach and overseeing a large part of our virtual academy, which serves thousands of students, right? I have to pivot on a dime sometimes, and I really need to make sure I'm doing what's best for the group, and kind of bringing my A game consistently, and figuring out how to take things not only to the next level, but how to consistently deliver a high caliber of work throughout. So you gave me some pro tips. I think I need to reinvent my morning and really focus on those two things as well.
Yeah, let me say this real quick too.
Yeah.
All of us here, and so honored to be with such a phenomenal panel here. All of us here have, in some form or fashion, on different levels, been the person that delivered quote unquote learning to groups of others, right? Professional development at different levels, maybe even at a school level, a campus level, a district level, nationally, maybe even internationally, right? In terms of an international presence. And we've seen a lot of different individuals, they get the information, right? And they're like, wow, I've got this information. I'm so excited, Vernon. Like, I'm ready to just jump right into it, right? But here's what happens, and I'll share this pro tip for those that are taking notes. Great place to take notes. I've shared this with my clients that I coach in my one-on-one private coaching, and then also clients that I work with in the form of different school districts. What happens is we get information and we want to go straight to application, right? But here's what happens. We miss the middle part, which is the second part, which is revelation, and that's context and understanding. So I would say this to anyone in 2021, as you get and you acquire information, especially if it's real time, some project or different things that you're working on, make sure you have that context and clarity, or the revelation, the deeper understanding, before you move to application. Because if you move to application without having that deeper understanding, if it doesn't go right, you'll get frustrated and you'll think that something's wrong with your next steps. There's nothing wrong with your next steps. You just needed to have a greater understanding before you implement it. Thank you.
That's perfect. And speaking of applications, I know Jake Miller's just got a lot. He's somebody that I've had on the podcast for the People I Admire series. And I mean, definitely you all would fit in that category as well. Jake, what do you have for what went well in 2020, and one thing you might change?
Yeah, so my lens is always from the educator's perspective in terms of educational technology, and it goes a lot back to what Vernon was saying there about thinking about the context of the situation you're in and being really mindful of what you're trying to achieve. And I feel like I've been preaching to educators for years now about not trying to do all of the technologies, not trying to learn all of the technologies, not being overwhelmed by all of them, but just thinking about what is it you're trying to achieve with your learners? What is your goal in your setting? What are the problems you're trying to solve? What needs do you have in your setting? And then identifying technologies that fit for you. And that has resonated with some educators, but other educators, it was like they were too overwhelmed to even think about it. And this year, one of the things that I think went really well is educators did that. Educators rocked that. Educators in March, or a little bit earlier, depending on your geographical location, or a little bit later, depending on your geographical location, realized like, oh man, I've got a whole lot of problems and needs and things that I need to address. I need to connect with my students who are not physically in school with me. I need to support students who can't be online at the same time as I can. I need to make sure I'm maintaining my rapport with students. I need to make sure that I'm checking in on the mental well-being of my students. I have all of these things I need to do. And they suddenly went like, how can technology support me with this, right? Educators who had previously been intimidated by the thought of using these technologies went like, now I've got to do it, right? And they were like, okay, I've got to learn Zoom or Google Meet, or I've got to learn Screencastify, or I've got to learn Flipgrid, or I've got to learn Loom, or I've got to learn Pear Deck, or whatever it was, whatever that tool was that met their needs. They buckled down and they learned it. And I think they impressed the world with how much educators have done over these last 10 months or so to benefit our learners and to support our students. And they did that because they identified the needs that the students had. So I think that's the one thing that I'm really proud of and went really well is educators looked at what they needed to achieve and they identified the steps that they needed to take to do it. And they rocked it. They really impressed me with what they've achieved. I think one thing that needs to change is some of the decisions that have been made for educators without the educator being the one advising the decisions, right? So a lot of decisions were made based on certain compliance measures, certain expectations, certain logistics and things like that maybe it was administrators or maybe it was government or maybe it was people outside of the classroom, whoever it might be, thought were necessary for classrooms. And the decisions were made without the educators being consulted. Maybe it was requiring like seat time rather than learning, right? You have to be on Zoom for this call. You have to be on Zoom for 3 hours a day to do all of your learning. Well, who knows if learning is happening in that setting? Why aren't we talking to the educators and thinking about what things work best? We've seen things over the last decade of educational technology like HyperDocs and like things like that really empower students to learn at their own pace and be inspired and transform the way they learn that aren't grounded in the logistics and compliance and things like that we have, instead of thinking about what works best for students. So I think those are some of the things that were, that I wish we would have done a little bit differently, but like far and above, the educators rocked it regardless of what those things were. They went, okay, this is what you want. All right. Okay. Well, I'll work within that box that you put me in. And they've done amazing things regardless.
No, you're absolutely right. Educators have stepped up to the plate. We have a few people joining us. We got Becky Thal, we got Marcia Carrillo, and just wanted to say hi to them. Sorry if I missed somebody in there. The chat is picking up. And with that, we're going to keep this going full steam ahead. Tisha, what can you share about what went well in 2020 and what you might change?
The two words that come to mind to me in 2020 is connection and communication. In March, when this all hit, I was a tech integration specialist. I still am a tech integration specialist, and my role drastically changed as the district needed to move quickly to, remote teaching. And I had to get really creative in how I communicated with educators and how I met their needs. And so I went straight to, virtual office hours and creating Calendly signups for one-on-one support and all of these different things to really help support teachers. And I agree with Jake. I am just blown away by what educators have done in this time. It's absolutely phenomenal how they just rose to the challenge and did what they needed to connect with kids, to meet the needs of kids, to learn new technologies. And I think one thing that really helped me in just helping support teachers was connecting with educators through my podcast. I have enjoyed that so much this past year. It was a huge leap of courage for me to do a podcast. I started it about a year and a half ago. So it was before COVID that I did my podcast, but that really kept me going. Throughout this past year is connecting with educators from around the world and just talking about what was working in their districts, how they're handling stress, how their self-care, what they're doing for self-care during this time. That really helped me help others, because I was getting a perspective from a lot of different people. And I think it also helped me be a better communicator. It's helped me be a better listener. It's helped me learn how to be more articulate. And so all of those things, I think, have sharpened my communication skills and helped me better serve those in my district. And I think as far as what I might have done differently or changed, I think I would have wished that I would have documented more in writing. This past year, it's an area that I really look to improve upon in my own practice in 2021 is journaling and writing, because it's something that I really, really enjoy. And I feel that has been something that has not been as present in my daily practice this past year is writing. I know Tara is really great about journaling, and it's something that I've really wanted to do. And I feel like my podcasts have kind of been a way of documenting this past year and hearing all of the stories from people, around the world. But yeah, writing is something that I think is something I want to bring into my practice in this coming year for sure.
I love it. And I'm going to add a little bit to that with writing. I hope this inspires our listeners out there, maybe inspires you. There's no time like the present to get started. And I've been reflecting more and thinking more about writing and looking into Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. He talks about the best moments in his life were these quote unquote green lights where he was able to follow trends. And it came from that journaling. And I thought, I need to do that. So simple, but this is one of the pillars of success. Vernon also mentioned his mentor being in a different field, not in education. On my podcast, I had one of my mentors, Daniel Del Real. He's the #1 realtor in California, is voted by Wall Street Journal, and he's in my area. We're not in a heavily metropolitan area, about 300,000 people. We're outside the Bay Area, outside of Sacramento. And I bring that up because it shows his hustle, his dedication, and he also is engaged in this reading, writing process. And I've calculated already for this next year, I can write 60,000 words, which I think is about 64 pages, give or take, right? Because of your word choice. If I start January 4th, I'll finish May 4th. And all I have to do is write 500 words a day. 500 words. You can kick that out easy. But the name of the game is purposeful practice and being intentional. So show up, be intentional, etch out that time. If you've always wanted to write a book, write it this year, 2021. You can do it. You could follow me January 4th through May 4th. And, it's on May the 4th. So Star Wars Day, right? So perfect timing on that. Join the writing revolution and share your work out there, because we are firmly better together. Of course, we want to have a competitive spirit, and that's one of my goals. And that leads me to the next part. I would like each of you to share out in about a minute your one goal for 2021, or a single goal that you can share, something that's deeply personal to you that you're able to reveal to the listeners. Let's go with you, Jake. What do you have in the tank for 2021 that you can share with us?
Well, I've got two, right? So the first one is that my son, my youngest son just walked by and he wrote this note and said it next to me. It says, "Hey Dad,
Oh,
I need some help." he's, he's building a Lego robot upstairs. So he knows not to interrupt, but he knows. So my first goal is to keep embracing this kind of stuff and playing with
yeah,
the kids and not letting it be
yeah,
the disruption, right? The second goal relates to what you were saying there, Scott. It's something that Seth Godin, who's my favorite podcaster and author, says. He calls it focused persistence, and I don't think it's his term originally, but he references it a lot. It is this idea of like what you're saying, a mindful, deliberate persistence at moving forward with the goals that you have, right? Not taking those days off, keeping, like persisting forward, even when it's tough, focusing on those goals that you have. So I have a lot of things that I'm trying to achieve, and I'm trying to keep impacting and supporting more and more educators. And my goal is to keep persisting on that, because that's what it takes, right? To go drip by drip, day by day, to push forward and do that. And also to help my son build Legos.
Yes, build Legos. Me too. We have many Lego sets out right now. We are in full swing of Lego building. Tara, let's go to you.
So, a personal goal. So, I hate to talk fitness again, but I kind of live my life in metaphors. So, I think it just works really well. One of my fitness goals by March 1st, which is coming up so fast, is to learn to do handstand push ups and then also handstand walks. And I know that sounds really crazy if you don't do that and you're not interested in that. And if you're over 40, like I am, it sounds kind of silly that you would want to do that. But as I'm doing these daily practices. So first of all, a couple of things, like thinking in metaphor and how this relates to maybe the listeners out there. I think it works really well because when I'm upside down, I'm seeing the world from a totally different perspective. It's just so different. It's not, I'm an older woman, you're like doing a handstand. When I was a little kid, that probably seemed normal, but now it doesn't really seem normal. It seems unusual. And it takes, and then learning to push your whole body weight up, that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of daily accessories, a lot of exercises that I've never done to build muscles in my back and shoulders that are not there yet. And so I think a lot of times with these big goals that we set for 2021, we have to remember that things don't happen overnight. This is a 6-month goal that I'm working toward. It's not going to happen overnight. People always say, how long did it take you to learn that? Well, it took a long time because I had to build skills. Well, for me, in this situation, I had to build muscles to be able to lift my body weight. But in real life, we have to build skills. A lot of times we do have to take it slow. We have a really big goal, but we have to remember that persistence that Jake talked about earlier, and consistency is what helps you get to that place. Daily accessory workouts is what I have to do after my normal workout just to kind of meet this goal that I want to do. And it's not just pushing myself to meet a new goal, but it's also all those around me. I think it's important that when we are reaching these goals, we are documenting in some way and we're sharing our journey along the way, because you just never know the far-reaching effects of your splash. I wrote about this in Cannonball Inn, trying new things, getting out there and just doing that thing. And with Cannonball Inn, that little girl knew how to swim in the shallow. She was just super afraid to swim in the deep. But once she realized, you know what, swimming in water is swimming in water. I have the skills to do this. I just kind of have to take it to that next level. And that's the same with these goals that I'm talking about with handstand push-ups and handstand walks. Yes, it is going to give me this sense of accomplishment. It's going to give me this sense of, oh my goodness, I can do this new skill. But it also reminds me that I'm not reaching a plateau. That's not the end of the world for me. I'm going to set another 6-month goal after that. And I'm going to reach some new skills and have to build some new muscles and have to be patient and persistent again. And every day practice until I can reach that new goal. And I think that's really important as we are chasing these goals to remember nothing really worthy of talking about happens overnight. It really just doesn't. And it takes a lot of consistency, a lot of persistence. And you have to be willing just to push through the hard things and do that thing, but also realize that you're not reaching a plateau. It's just a step along the journey.
Yeah. Oh, so much truth there. And just quickly, you could do it. My little brother can do handstand push-ups, and he listened to a motivational speaker, Eric Thomas. He goes by ET, has a huge following on social media, and he has this talk. I forget the exact name, but it's essentially, do you want to succeed. That's his message. And he talks about what it takes. And he talks about wanting success more than you want to breathe. And while that may not be entirely true, there's a lot of truth in that. You have to want it so bad that you get up before everybody else, that you do those 2-a-day workouts. My buddy Daniel Del Real that I mentioned, he's a triathlete. He gets up at 4:30 in the morning daily and does these crazy bike rides to stay in shape, and runs and swims, and he's gotten coaches. You have to be all in, and like you said, cannonball into your dreams so that you can, benefit. Vernon, I'm going to swing it over to you. What's your goal that you want to share?
Yeah, great stuff. Wow. I'm on this panel, but I think I'm taking notes too. This is wonderful. Great stuff. I want to say one thing real quick about the commitment portion. And I'm a huge journaling fan. I do electronic journaling. I'm not too good with that old school method. And I don't get anything from them, but just to go ahead and share with folks, just a pro tip here. I use the Day One app. And I have that on my Mac, and I have it on my tablet, my different devices. So it syncs across all of those. Day One in the App Store. Love it. One of the best investments I ever made. Can add pictures and different things to my daily journal, and that's part of my morning routine. One of the things that I have in mind really to do for 2021, and I've already started it obviously in 2023 words: alignment, impact, scale. I'll say that one more time: alignment, impact, and scale. And in my professional and personal lives, when I coach my clients, especially in one-on-one executive coaching and coaching leaders, I talk to them a lot about, when we're looking at something in our professional lives, typically there's very much so a carryover to our personal lives as well. And so for me is really looking at what is my messaging? What's the core of that messaging? What am I looking for that impact to be? Is it aligned between my professional and personal life? And what is the potential impact? Because those that are edupreneurs, and of course all of us are that are here on this panel, and I know we have several that are watching us as well, when you reach that point is what becomes your brand. Let me say that one more time. That is what becomes your brand. So for me in 2021, it's continuing to look at how I can continue that impact and scale that. That is through my speaking engagements, through my educational consulting work, and most definitely so through my NLP, for those that are maybe fans of neuro-linguistic programming, my NLP coaching that I do with individuals, and then also to some other kind of stuff that I won't kind of talk about right now, but we'll kind of put that.
Yeah, I know you're saving it. You're saving your one word, right? So
yeah,
I'm waiting. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, we'll kind of put that teaser out there. But I want to say this one last thing, and then I'll go ahead and I'll go back on mute. People have asked me on different podcasts, by the way, and such an honor to have been on my friend Tara Martin's podcast. If you guys would like to know more about my story, she's got that podcast out there. I was so privileged and honored to be on her episode and on our podcast with that episode. My life really changed when I went from being interested to committed, but there's a third level, right? People typically talk about being interested. They typically talk about being committed. There's a third level you might not have heard of. It's something that I journal about daily. My life changed when I went from becoming interested or being interested to becoming committed to becoming beast mode committed. So here's what I want to ask everyone that is watching this right now or that is viewing this. You may call yourself committed and may see yourself committed, but are you beast mode committed for 2021? Thank you.
Oh, that's perfect.
Wow.
That's really good. And I know Tisha's going beast mode right now with her podcast, releasing all kinds of stuff, and her blogs are just phenomenal with games. What can we expect from you in 2021? And as we wrap up, where can folks find and follow you?
So I definitely want to do more writing this year. I mentioned that in my previous question. I definitely want to journal daily. That's a goal that I have for myself because I think that reflection is so important. And just documenting, I forget what happens, day to day. And so much happens with, thinking about this past year. So much has happened. And yet how much has slipped away from my memory because I haven't documented it. So that is something that I definitely want to do. I want to be more intentional about blog writing and sharing more blogs out on a regular basis. I have really, really enjoyed over break, just spending time taking all these ideas that are in my head and getting them written in a blog. I have lots of game ideas that I do want to share out. And so writing is going to be a big part of the coming year. I've also thought about starting a YouTube channel. And so that is something that I'm kind of working on, looking at ways to get that started so that I can share out some of the ideas and strategies that I have in that format too. And that is a real, I think, leap of courage for me because I don't love being on video. And so I always try to find that one thing that's going to really push me out of my comfort zone. And that definitely is pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So those are a few things on the horizon for me in 2021.
Yeah, well, bless you, friend. I know it's early over here on the West Coast. You had to get up early on a holiday. So I appreciate you. And where can everybody follow you at on social media and then your website where you blog?
Sure. So you can follow me at Tish Rich on Twitter. You can find me at either Tish Richmond or Make Learning Magical on Instagram. You can find my Make Learning Magical podcast on all of the platforms. And then I share my blogs out and a lot of different resources on TishaRichmond.com.
That's awesome. And don't forget to follow the Make Learning Magical podcast. And we have our friend Marilyn McAllister. Shout out. She says, oh my gosh, do it, Tisha. Hashtag magical tuber. I like it. I like it. I could see that trending. Let's go to you, Jake. Where can everyone follow you and shout out the EDU Duct Tape podcast?
Thanks for the opportunity to share that. So I am on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Jake Miller Tech. My website is jakemiller.net, and you can actually find more info about the podcast at eduducttape.com. And that's duct with a T at the end, like the actual duct tape.
Yeah,
not like
not quack quack, like the StreamYard icon there.
Right. It's a different duck.
And Tara, where can we follow you?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Tara Martin EDU, on Instagram, TaraMMartin.real, and on Facebook, Tara M. Martin. I'm also the Real Journey Show on the podcast. And then if you find me on YouTube, it's Tara M. Martin, and it's also Real Talk with Tara M. Martin. So it's pretty easy to find me just about anywhere. Tara M, I know that middle initial, but there must be a lot of Tara Martins out there in the world. So I had to put a middle initial every time. But yeah, please do follow me. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're doing, the goals you're chasing, the beast mode commitment you got going, because that is something Vernon and I definitely have in common there. With that piece of hustle in life, we definitely think alike right there. And I really think, just going into 2021, I know it's not my turn to say something more, but I just want to say this real quick, that just don't be afraid to chase your dreams. Like, I think we miss out on so many opportunities because we're afraid of like what other people think, or, the more content you put out there, the more haters you're going to get. It's just part of the process, but don't be afraid. If you believe it, stay true to what you believe and put it out there, because you just never, ever know who's watching you, who you are inspiring. Like going back to the book, I've always referred back to the book, but it's just so true with Cannonball, and it just works for anybody. You never know when you make that big splash, who's getting wet because of that splash, who on the sidelines was just watching and kind of hoping that one day they could be a jumper, they could be a cannonballer, and you just gave them that little extra boost of encouragement by putting something in your story, by putting a piece of content out there, by starting a YouTube channel, even though you're intimidated by it. You're like, okay, if she can do it, then I can do it. So please don't be afraid to share your story, because everyone has a story and all of us can be inspired by each other. So we are truly better together. And when you hold back, you're holding back on letting the world just become a better place. So that's just my little piece of advice.
No, I love it. That's what we're all about, right? Making the world a better place. And I'm going to throw this back up. Dave Burgess in the house, y'all. I'm so glad to have Dave joining us honored. I know you all know him, great guy, and talk about empowering voices and educators. I love what DBC has done for the educational sphere. And I love hearing teacher stories that inspire me, like your stories, right? We have Tisha's book, Make Learning Magical. I spoke with her about that just yesterday, about how her great food truck race really inspired me to gamify my classroom. So I started that. So I went to that conference October of 2018. By November of 2018, I started employing what was there, and tying in with what Jake said about with tech focusing on just a few things and not trying to do it all. That was my one thing for that unit, for that time period, for that semester. Start small, and then tying in what Vernon said, scale up, right? So after you do that and you get invested, then you can add on some more things. And want to also point out in the chat, our friend Tamara Letter, also DBC, you never know who's getting wet from your splash. So true. And Eric Guy shares great stuff today. Scott, Tisha, Tara, Jake, and Beast in so many takeaways. You were all fantastic. Thank you, brother. And thanks for all that you do for educators everywhere. Happy New Year. Yes, everyone. Happy New Year. And Vernon, I see it on the screen, The Right Leader. Where can folks find you?
Absolutely. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Twitch as well, if we have any gamers that are out there that are on Twitch. @ The Right Leader, as you see it there on your screen. And I also want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my friend Tim Cavey, Teachers on Fire podcast. And it's really kind of expressing and really leveraging and playing off of something that Tara shared. And there are many people out there. Some of you all may have seen, I put out a post here about 2 or 3 weeks ago of a screenshot I took when I had 15 followers. And then I put a screenshot on there, whatever many followers I had at the time. But 15 followers, folks. And when I started out with 15 followers, and I look at that screenshot so often, because I didn't think, hey, fast forward and you'll be here amongst these EduStars, right? I was just at 15 followers. But I want to say this that I said and shared on the Teachers on Fire podcast. There are many people out there in the world that have questions, and you as the content creator are the answer. I just want you to think about that for a second. You're the answer. You were uniquely created. You were uniquely gifted for this time, for this day. Today is your day. You're the answer. When you take that step forward and you become the answer in terms of the content that you're creating, you're that answer for someone's question. And I just want to go ahead and say this for folks that would like to become connected with my brand, zeroapologyzone.com, an online apparel website. You can go there to that website, different offerings. I change out different products from time to time. Those who would like to get connected with my work, go to my Twitter bio. I have 2 links in my Twitter bio. The first one is a playlist of all of the different podcasts that I am so grateful to have appeared on, including Scott and Tara's. And as well, there's a second link, which is a playlist. Quick shout out to Q Inc. and Microsoft EDU for the Global EdTech Academy I did with them this summer, along with my friend Jake as well. And the Reflections of a Leader series that I did there. And just absolutely honored and privileged to be with you all here today. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you all so much.
Scott, can I say one thing?
Yeah. Throw it in
I'm
there.
taking over, and I really do have another meeting, but I don't care. This is so cool. Me on here, Shirley. So one of the things that Vernon just said that I love so much, and I just want to piggyback on it because I see Tamara over here, and I might embarrass her just for a second, but it's okay. She'll let me anyway. One of the great things that I get to do with DBC Inc. is work and mentor authors through the process of launching their book, their manifesto. And a lot of times they reach out to me before they even write the book. And Tamara was one of these. And a lot of authors say the same thing. For her, for example, her topic was kindness. And she's like, so many people are talking about kindness. But I was like, Tamara, no one can tell your story about kindness. Like you can tell your story.
Facts.
And so I just want to remind people, as you're setting these goals, as you're thinking about this, and you're like, oh, Vernon already has this kind of theme. Tara's already doing kind of fitnessy marketing, all these different things. Like, there's not room for me. No, there's room for all of our stories, because the way that we tell that story, even if it has the same topic, is totally different. And no one can share your story like you can. And you will reach people that other people with the same topic can't quite reach, because of the way that you've handled different situations along that topic. So please know that there's room for everyone's story in the world. There's room for all the ones that are along the same topic. There's no reason not to put your content out there. There's absolutely no reason, except for you being fearful or doubting your own talents, your own strengths. The truth is, Tamara put her message out there. It's been so overwhelmingly received by many. I love that message. If you haven't read Passion for Kindness, you need to, because it teaches you ways that you can reach out to people in the most unique, unusual ways. And it helps you to look for those little silver linings that you may have never seen. And Tamara is the only person that can tell that story just quite like that. There are other kindness books that are just equally as awesome. So that's what I want to tell people. Don't be afraid to put your stuff out there because it's along the same topic, because everybody's story has a place in this world, every single one of them.
Absolutely, Tara. And I want to follow that up with reminding everyone, you are enough. Yes, you matter. You are enough. You're an educator. And even if you're listening and you're not an educator, you are still enough. Get out there, share your message, share what you're passionate about. If you're not sure, explore, then ideate and construct what it is you want to contribute to this amazing world. Don't let 2020 and the pandemic hold you back. I know these pro tips that everyone has shared will not only help you survive what's coming ahead, but will help you thrive in this new year. And I have to share out as we close, talking about Tamara, I'm going to share this photo, throwback ISTE 2019. And then I have one more, Jake Miller, everyone. So this was like the awesome moment. You can see the huge grin on my face. Super excited, finally connected with one of my EDU heroes, Jake Miller, in person. Super chill guy, and right, he's back on. It was super great. So I want to encourage you all, reach out, connect. I did that. I cannonballed in, right? I try to be real, as Tara Martin says, and get out there. If you need help, just ask, and ask what you need help with. It's amazing. We have some great tips out there for you. If you missed something, join late, be sure to go back and listen to the episode. It's going to be on Facebook at Mr. Nunes Teach. I'll post a link on Twitter and Twitch as well at Mr. Nunes Teach, and then I'll upload it on YouTube at Mr. Nunes Teach. So you could follow me on Twitter at Mr. Nunes Teach. I'm your host, Scott Nunes, with the Education Today podcast. Please check it out on the podcast player of your choice or at anchor.fm/edtoday. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. I can't wait to see what everyone does in this educational space. Thank you all.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Education Today. It is my pleasure to share with you all. Let's stay connected on Twitter. You can find me at Mr. Nunes Teach. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on the player of your choice and give Education Today a positive review on Apple Podcasts. Remember, everyone, out here in this field of education, it's grind time.